Chicago just has that where it's like when you tell people you're from there, we're lucky because we got great sports. I used to work at Wrigley Field.
You did not.
Yeah, bro. I used to sell hot dogs.
I used to sell soda. Hello and welcome to Chiaspora. We have another amazing episode. This is the show where we interview those who have left Chicago, but Chicago never left them. Today we have an amazing friend, a colleague, awesome dude. You will know him from Two Broke Girls as Oleg. But you also know him from, he's done so many commercials I've been seeing you on. And I want to hear everything that you got going on. But this is Jonathan Kite, everybody, from The Chi. You don't have to speak any at all.
I am happy to be here. You know what's crazy is
I'm so happy you're here, dude.
I love the hat because my brother actually has that tattooed on his arm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's cool.
Is he out here?
No, Seattle.
Oh, it's your cousin that you do the podcast.
Yeah, my cousin's out here. We have no tattoos. You know what's crazy though is I don't know. What do the 4 stars stand for? Do you know?
I wish I did. I don't. I have no idea. I feel like there are a lot of 4 stars and a lot of different flags. I have no idea what Chicago's for.
I think people know, like, that's a pretty specific. I don't know what the LA flag looks like the Los Angeles city flag.
The California flag.
No, I know the California, the bear. But I know the state flag of a lot of them. But the fact
Chicago's
that
very similar. It's very different. I've seen a lot of people with tattoos.
Oh yeah, but the 2 blue stripes and the 4 red stars,
which
and
is kind of
no, I see.
The logo.
I know it looks great, brother. Dude, I'm going back next week. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
So we get picked up from the airport. My parents picked me up from the airport, and then I go straight to Lou Malnati's Pizza.
There you go. Yeah. I was going to ask you can get to that point.
Oh, brother.
That's your spot.
That's my spot every time I'm back. I miss it. Somebody asked me the other day if I could move back there, would I? And I was like, yeah, if I could do what we do.
Right.
You know, it's so tough because there was such a push at one point. I think some know that they tried to have studios and stuff there, and
the Matrix guy, the girls now, the
Wachowski,
they, from my understanding, they were trying, and then it became a fail.
There was Joan Cusack, my buddy, the guy who was first AD on Two Broke Girls, Doug Tobin. He was working on Joan Cusack's show, Joan, in Chicago, but it's just. It's not. We're too, I think, small of a place to have it extended. Because even like New York, like they have their stage, but I've done jobs in New York, but they cast them out here.
Yeah, of course.
Especially with the internet and stuff. So why wouldn't you live out here with better weather? A lot
of the posters out here a lot of the time in LA. I mean, they have a lot of on location stuff in New York. Too. I mean, I always felt that when you do things in LA, it just. Seems like this is because of the weather. Weather helps because they have a lot more control over things.
Well, you don't have to pay for a crew.
That's
the other thing. Because I just shot a film I was in Mobile, Alabama, and they flew out the crew
from LA.
Yeah, because they're union guys and girls. So it's probably. I mean, but you don't get the tax break, so you have to see if it's fiscally intelligent to do that because some states give a better tax break and obviously California gives nothing.
They expect people for some reason to be here. So, but that's interesting. So you have thought about moving back.
Yeah, well, I thought about getting a place in another city, and I thought about living in New York because I did a play there last year, and I thought about Chicago, like right on the waterfront, maybe like Lincoln Park, like that type of area, because that's where my parents used to own an apartment.
But you're from Skokie, right?
Yeah.
Are your parents still in Skokie?
Still in the same house I grew up in.
Wow.
And it's crazy.
So it's cool when you get back.
It's like going home is actually going home.
Going home.
Yeah. It's actually. Where did you grow up?
Rogers Park.
Oh, that's right. That's where my father was born. My father grew up in Rogers Park.
Where did he go to high school?
He went to Niles East, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Got it.
Because my grandmother and grandfather moved to Skokie off of Howard Street.
I was on Howard Street.
Yeah, and they moved, and I think his brother went to Lane Tech.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but his brother's a couple years older. But yeah, man, things are good, dude. I'm just been, I'm looking forward to going back. I haven't been back since surprised my mother for her birthday. Her 70th, yeah.
Wow,
congratulations. It was in June, yeah.
What's her name?
Lynn. Shout out to Lynn.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, it was great. So, but I was only for like 24 hours.
Oh, it was a quick.
Because I had to be back for work so fast, yeah.
Wow.
But it was great. It was super fun.
I'm sure they're happy when you just drop in.
Oh, yeah. My father knew I was coming, and then my mother did not. And so that was great. Yeah, it was great. And then, but I really look forward to Thanksgiving because all of my friends from all over come back. And awesome. It's so fun, dude.
Do they all? That's always a good question. Is that you get the guy who's doing this thing in LA, and you come back. Are they like, so what's going on?
Nah,
or they
not really. I mean, I don't really
friends.
talk about it. To be honest with you, I don't. I'm sure they probably learn more about me from like my social media than they do from conversations, just because everybody in my friend group, especially the close-knit guys, they're all so successful in their fields.
That's great.
So it's like and so we don't, none of us really, like my childhood best friend is an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, graduated from Harvard, but he doesn't, I mean, unless one of us is like, will you look at this rash? He doesn't like, he doesn't talk about, people on the operating table. We just we have so much more history, and there's so many common threads there that we don't have to be like, how's work? Like, I actually, as I'm getting older, I hate water cooler talk. Like, I'm happy I never had a 9 to 5 because
it's just BS stuff.
Yeah, I hate it. I don't want to talk about what happened on Seinfeld last night. I mean, I'm glad we all watched it, and I think it's a great show. And I always have this look on my face. It's like lazy Sunday afternoon. As soon as I walk outside, I'm like a horse with blinders trying to win the Kentucky Derby. It's one of these things where I really also value like silence. So for a guy, I think, like myself, who's a performer, I spend a lot of time alone because I really like that. And I think that I really need that alone time to sort of balance what I have going on. And so when I go out of the house, it doesn't necessarily mean like, that's one of the reasons I'm super happy. Like, I love New York and I love working there, and I had a great time there, but like when you walk out your door, the city's like, I'm here, and Los Angeles doesn't necessarily have that, and Chicago doesn't either, but and there's obviously plenty of cities internationally where like just the population's unbelievable. I sort of like it's sort of why I go out. Yeah, I go grocery shopping like super late at night, just
that's so interesting. I would think it would be actually the opposite.
It has been my experience, I won't put this on anybody, that you feel the need to talk. And I really respect that when I was a kid, my father is a very silent man sometimes. And then you realize, like, I sort of had to learn this from him, that he just didn't feel the need to talk all the time. And so he could just sit there.
What did he do for a living?
He was a mechanic. He worked at Northwestern University for over 40 years.
It would have been great if it was like, he's a public speaker.
I was going to say he's a mortician. He's a grave digger. He'll talk to a dead body all day long. That guy, that scene from Hamlet, that is him. But I really loved that about him, and he was our scout leader. So he's a very interpersonal human, and he's in the smartest guy I've ever met. And so he's a reader, and he does books on tape. So, but he doesn't, like, I think that there is an idea, which I think social media sort of feeds into, is that we constantly need to send out waves to people that we exist, that we matter. And I think there's something about him where I think that he matters to the people that he wants to matter to.
Understood.
And he doesn't care about the other people. Understood. And I always really respected that. When I sit down with my cousin and we do our podcast, people go, why don't you have guests? We had his father on once in 50 episodes. We never felt the need.
Why don't you tell us what the podcast is?
It's at Kites of the Round Table. It's my cousin and I, who are 6 months apart, and he is it's funny. So I describe us as we're a Venn diagram of people. So like we're similar and dissimilar enough where the middle area is, and we're sort of oddities in a way where he's a rock star. He's in a huge band called The Voids. Julian Casablancas is the lead singer. You know him from The Strokes. He's a very successful musician, and they have incredible guys. The drummer, Alex Karapitas, shout out, Jeremy, Amir, and Jake, and these guys are incredible. They've all been in their own bands. They're very successful, and my cousin plays keys. And when you think of a rock star, which he is a rock star, like they play, they played everything you can think of. The Glastonbury Festival in Europe. I mean, they play Governor's Ball in New York. They play the big shit, and they travel all over the world. He's flying in from Mexico right now. But when you meet him, He's like a Larry David type of guy. He's very he keeps to himself a lot too. He wears like long cardigans and like
he just loves the music.
Old man shoes. And I'm like, what are you doing Sunday morning? He goes, Sudoku. He's like, I'm filling out the crossword puzzle. And there's something so refreshing about that.
Well, that's very rock star, where you don't give a shit about what it is. You just love doing music.
That's the thing, and he's great at it. He's really, really, really great, and he does a lot of other musical stuff besides being in the band. He has like his own bands, and they have their own albums, and they tour. And but for me, the thing is, on the other end of it is, I'm an actor, and a comedian is a hobby, but it's become like maybe like.
You're doing a lot of stand-up.
Yeah, now I was going to say it's becoming about 30 or 40% of my income, but like when I started, it was a hobby. But for me, I'm not depressed. Like a lot of comedians, after a while, they kind of like it's their venting, And it was cool. I went to go see Dane Cook the other night. My buddy opened for him. It was great. It was at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. And I love that type of comedian. I mean, I love Dane's energy and and I love sort of that if he doesn't have to fake complain about shit. Because I think I'm a pretty positive person.
You are.
So like, I never have felt, I have to tell you, I've never written a joke. I tried one time to write about being like my father about something, about how my dad would just get angry at shit. And it didn't come off authentic because I'm not angry about it. I was like, it kind of annoys me, but it's not like really annoying. It's like, and then that felt like the audience was like, we get it. And so for me, I'm a comedian who's like in a good mood all the time. And my cousin who's a rock star who's like, how are you? He goes, nah, I'm okay. The air purifier, I got to get new,
So somewhere in the middle, you have a good, funny conversation.
We have the best. I mean, he's my brother. I mean, we're cousins, but we're more like brothers. And we do our podcast, and we literally just talk about whatever is on our mind at that given point. But the thing is, we feel like that's important to us. That's where we put our energy. And so someone's like, well, why do you have a guest? And I go, I'd rather have a deeper conversation with my cousin, a one-on-one type of deal.
Sure.
Because I think of this, when you do stand-up, you go to these different cities, right? And I did Indianapolis, and Bob and Tom. I don't know if you know that program. It was the biggest radio show in the country at the time, 20 years ago. Super fun, and they promote you. It's out of Indianapolis. I was doing Crackers, and it was like almost like a Howard Stern thing where there was. Tom had left. I think it was Bob and somebody else. There was the kicker for the Colts was in there. There was another comedian, this guy Brendan, who I'd known from LA, super funny guy. And then like 4 or 5 other people. It was too many people in the room. And I know that there's a drive time sort of, hilarity to it. But I almost like listening to Howard Stern.
It's a one-on-one.
When it's one-on-one, dude, it's so people.
He's the greatest interviewer.
Dude, he's the best. And also, I think it's so effortless, and it's like what you realize is when you're there, and obviously, you got to give him all the credit in the world because he is the best. You don't need anything else.
Right.
You have on. It's like when he has Beetlejuice. Are you a fan? Of course, yeah. So I love the Whack Pack. Love Beetlejuice. Love Artie Lang. Love Norm Macdonald. Those are my idols. And it's like I just love their truth. And the fact that he can bring it out, and he's a very interesting guy. The fact that he hates to travel, that he is such this weird dude.
He admits it. He's like the biggest nerd in the world.
Yeah, he is, and he hates it. He just did Bill Maher because he was promoting a book, I think. And and Bill's like, "Why don't you come on travel, Howard? Why don't you do that?" And he goes, "I just don't. I don't like to leave New York." And and there's something very amazing about that. This guy who's super famous, arguably the most famous rock jock, him and Casey Kasem, probably in the shock jock and rock jock separately. Dick Clark. I mean, there's a couple guys on that level, and he is. I'm staying in New York. I mean, I want to be in my little bubble, but that's the
thing is, he also earned he could do whatever the hell he wants.
No. I don't think of it as a negative thing. I think what an amazing thing that he is able to take. All the energy, all the curiosity that he has, and just sit there and talk with Robin, and talk about, and just have Beetlejuice come in there, and just go, Bede, what's up? And then there's interventions, and they're like, there's so much nuance to his interviews, and so I really tried to bring that to my life because I'm such an emphatic, passionate person with a thirst and a curiosity. So anybody knows me is like, it was like, oh, do you watch basketball? I'm like, do I watch basketball? Are you kidding me? I was just I flew up
you went
to the same. I went to Duke, but I literally flew up for my friend. His father owns the property that Oracle Arena sits on, or the Chase Center. Oracle was in Oakland. Chase is in San Francisco. So we went out for the Boston game where they played on Friday night. Such a fun experience. We got to meet everybody. Like I go, and when I meet these people, I'm like such a fan. I'm not just like, oh, this is cool. Like, you know, I was just like, this is. I mean, I'm sitting there like a little ferret. There's like a thing on TikTok right now, or Instagram, where there's like a little ferret that's dancing that they have. That's me.
you.
I'm just happy to be there, and I really love that. And so the things that I want to do, like I want to do them and just attack them, because like, you know, sometimes you fall flat. And so for me, I'm like, I better start trying hard now, because it's only going to get harder as I get older.
I want to know where it even comes from. I mean, that's kind of what I like about this podcast. Is a little bit is, I always tell people, right, you're from Chicago. To somebody who is not from Chicago, it's kind of like, okay, he's from that city, big deal.
Yeah.
To people who are from that city, it's
the biggest.
It's a part of your life. It's who you are.
It is.
So how did
we are blessed, you and I?
We are.
I'm sure your listeners know this because they love you and they're a fan of you and the people you bring on. Just the fact that we're from Chicago, they're like already so sweet. Because when you say you're from Chicago, I've never, and I've been all over the world, I have never heard someone go, I'm from Bangkok, or I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. Oh, cool. I'm from New York. Fun. When you tell people you're from Chicago, I love Chicago.
Those people are so nice.
They're so nice. Oh my God. The weather sucks, but it's always followed by a but.
People always say
it's so nice. I go, how clean is that city? The cleanest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that we got very lucky because New York, it has the hardest job in the world. New York is it's not DC, but it represents, it takes on the responsibility of everything in America.
It's supposed to be like the epicenter.
It is. And so New York has a lot of pressure on it at all times. You know, it's under a microscope far more than we are. And so there's something about Chicago, which I'm very thankful, and I love New York and have spent a lot of wonderful time there. I love that Chicago can just be.
Yeah.
And like, you know, growing up with Second City, the fact that it still produces SNL writers and performers.
It's awesome.
I mean, you know, comedy, sports, Improv Olympic, all these people. You know, when I was growing up there, Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch were on the main stage in Second City, and it was just like I was a kid. I was in high school. But I did a play last year on the East Coast, and Rachel came out because she was friends with the director, and I was like, I wasn't cool. I was just like, I went up to her and I go, "You're the best." I'm like, I used to watch you when I was in high school. I used to watch you and Tina, and you played the nun in the Second City sketch. And I was just like, I just want to let you know you're awesome. And so like, I'm sort of unapologetically emphatic about my passion. No, and and by the way, I ran into her in LA. You couldn't meet a nicer human being, and so talented and so sweet. And so like, you know, Chicago just has that where it's like when you tell people you're from there, we're lucky because we got great sports. I used to work at Wrigley Field.
You did not?
Yeah, bro. I used to sell hot dogs.
I used to sell soda.
When? What year?
2000. I want to say 2001.
I was 98. I'm older. I mean, I'm older than you are. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I did
the year that McGuire and Sosa were going for it.
Sosa was still hitting homers when I was. Yeah. That's what I always told people is that I hated that job because I wanted to watch the game.
I know,
and you couldn't. Of course.
Do it. Well, when Sosa and McGuire were up,
that's the only time you can watch.
You was the only time because people were like, "Get down, you piece of shit."
That's crazy. I didn't know.
I talk about it on stage.
That's awesome.
And the thing is, and we also got Michael Jordan.
About it on the show, but yeah,
of course, it's amazing. What people love that. So like, and it's not when you think of the Cubs. The thing about Chicago is we get credit for a lot of things that we have nothing to do with, like as citizens of it or people that came from there. Because like the Cubs, the sports fans are unbelievable. Even when the Cubs sucked, That place was packed.
People, the Sox fans always give us a lot.
Well,
of grief.
Sox fans are
they're
shitheads.
angry.
I used to work there too.
Did you?
Yeah, man, at Comiskey.
So you did the whole vending ever?
Yeah, when it was Comiskey Cellular Field now.
Well, no, now it's guaranteed rate.
Oh, I know. Guaranteed rate.
I call it Comiskey still.
Yeah, of course. Me too. I just did. I let it slip out.
No, it's okay.
But you know what's
You're
crazy? I didn't. So I went to games and it's a monstrosity. There's no love. There's no heart. When you go to Wrigley, if you've never been, go in the summertime. You get hammered at the Cubby Bear, and then you walk to the game. It's in the middle of the city.
I don't know if you've been there lately. It's changed a lot.
I went to a game 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
It's even changed since.
I've heard.
They're building all sorts. It's cool. They're making it very
modern and
yeah. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I'm used to. I was telling a friend recently, like 94, 95. You go to a Cubs Pirates game, middle of the day, nobody is around. You can go right up to like box office, get something for like $15. Those days are done.
Yeah.
But Wrigley.
Well, when you win the series,
World Series, it changes everything.
Yeah, it changes.
Well,
but I remember we'd go to camp. Yeah, I mean, we'd go to camp, and when I was a kid in the mid '80s, late '80s,
take you to the game.
Yeah, and they were
Where'd
packed.
You go to camp?
I went to Oakton sports camp, and then I actually was at the JCC. I was a camp counselor.
In Skokie?
Yeah,
I was as well.
You were a camp counselor
at JCC.
What year were you?
I was a CIT.
I know you were. We were there the same time.
No way.
I swear to God. What year were you?
I don't remember. 98?
You were. I knew it. I swear to God.
Get the hell out of here.
That's where I remembered your face from.
Get the hell out of here.
I was Mickey Krzyzewski. That was my, I'm telling you, my memory's like near perfect.
This is insane.
Yeah. I knew, you know what's funny is when I first met you, I was like that maybe, but I remember you were CIT. I remember. And Tracy ran the camp.
Tracy.
Telling you. I remember.
How the hell do you remember this?
Yeah. And this guy, Mickey Krzyzewski, he was like Eminem. Dude, he was awesome. I just remember.
Oh my God.
Dude, we had the best. Those kids were amazing.
Oh my God.
Dude, one of the saddest moments of my life was, we were, I was this camp counselor at this camp, and these little kids were like these little turds. They were like 6, 7 years old. And then the next year I came back from university for the summer to, I wasn't even staying. I was doing theater, but I came back. Oh, no. That summer was the one summer I came back, and I saw them all playing at a park. And I remember there's this little kid, Zach Pellish, and his brother Aaron. And I remember all these kids, Robert, Bernard, all these dudes, Vinny, this guy Zev. Zev had the highest pitch voice. He was like a character in a Pixar movie. He would come up to me and like rat on everybody, but like in a sweet way. He'd be like, it's like, oh, this guy over here, he said I could have a soccer ball. And I was just like, Zev, there's another soccer ball. He goes, I don't know what. I never forgot these kids, right? So then the next year when I came back, you're talking about this is over 20 years ago, when I came back to see them, they didn't remember me because they were at that place in their life where they were developing and But
you remembered all of them.
All the kids, dude.
Well, I still don't understand. This is insane.
Yeah.
You remembered me from them.
Yeah, from CIT. I knew it.
There was I shouldn't talk bad, especially on there, but this is crazy. It was a weird experience. My friend and I did it together. And
who was your friend?
His name was Dominic. One of my best friends. We got the pitch of a life. I remember not even knowing if I wanted to do this. My mom wanted me to do something. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I went on this speech with Jeff Cohn. He is the man who had waddly feet and cooked hot dogs.
I remember.
He was a very weird man.
Yes.
Very weird man.
Adult. How old was he? Like 40s?
He was bald in all the top and then just had this like I don't know what the hell it was.
I remember. Yeah, of course.
Very weird. And I'll never forget, he gave me this pitch of a lifetime. He's like, well, Mark, you're going to have the greatest summer. You're going to go to the United Center. We're going to go on the floor. I was like, oh, my God, this is going to be the best summer of my life. And I convinced my friend Dom. I was like, Dom, you should do it. He heard the same spiel. I remember, you might have loved it. I did not like that.
No, well, CIT, who was your camp counselor? Do you remember?
I tried my best to forget this. I don't know.
I get it.
Tracy,
Tracy was the head of the camp, and
this is crazy.
Yeah, man, she had a gap between her teeth. Yes. Remember? Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, I never forgot her. I love her. And I only met her that one summer, and then I went off to school, and I went off to U of I, and it was.
So, did you know I went to U of I as well, in Champaign?
Yeah.
So you went there all 4 years?
Yeah.
So I went there for 2.
I was there 98 through 02.
03 to 05.
Yeah. You were no. The CITs were kids. You guys were young.
Yes, we were.
You would have been like 15 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I remember. You know, what's funny is you look like a guy that I grew up with. I've never been able to find him. I've looked. If he's out there, hit me up. This is my best friend when I was 6 years old. His name is Jared Kegley, and I looked him up. But that's why I remembered you because you looked like him.
That's interesting.
And it was crazy. I've tried to find his family forever because we moved school districts and then I never saw him again. But we were inseparable as little kids.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to, I originally started at Madison and then I went to Jane Stenson and then I went to Old Orchard Junior High.
Okay, so it was all public.
Yeah, and then Niles North. All public. Yeah.
I went to Salmon Schechter, which was in your area.
Yeah.
And then I went to Von Steuben.
Von Steuben, I know it well.
That was in the city.
Yes. It was a science school.
Yes, it was.
I know
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, my buddy, shout out to Dave Yamakawa and his brother Brian Yamakawa. They went to Von Steuben.
Your age?
Dave is my age and Brian is like 2 years older than me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And their father, Alan, God rest his soul, he was a great man. We were all Cub Scouts together. So they had an amazing program. Well, that's the other thing is there's a real sense of community and there's something about people in Chicago, like look at the athletes. Dwayne Wade came out of there. Anthony Davis. There's a lot. I mean, I'm a basketball guy, so I could tell you everybody there. Yeah, Barry Parker, Jahlil Okafor, they're all out there. And even when we were growing up, Kevin Garnett spent his senior year. Corey Maggette and I were the same year. Q Richardson, Anyway, there's Chris Collins, John Shire, who's an assistant coach at Duke. Krzyzewski's from the South Side Chicago. So like the thing is, there's such a sense of community, right? And it's big enough where there's always stuff to explore, and there's great, there's great, like I think the food scene is the best in Chicago because they're not living under the shadow of tradition that New York deals with. Obviously New York has incredible restaurants, but there's something about that. And if you think about the competition level in Chicago, it's good enough, but it isn't to the point where I think you think about guys out here, right? We always used to make this joke, like, wow, that guy's really hamming it up on stage tonight. And then they go, yeah, because he thinks, and I always joke, I go, yeah, I told him Lorne Michaels was in the audience. But in Chicago, like you just did it for the love of the game.
Right, you're just doing it because this is who you are.
Hey,
your parents did it, something like that.
Yes, you just love it, and that's how I started.
It's the biggest small town. That's the way I would describe it.
Yes, I went to my mother took me to the Schubert Theater, Chicago Theater, every single time. I saw Cats. I saw Hello Dolly. I saw.
Is that how you got into it? Your mom got you into it?
And my father got me into old time film. Golden Age of Hollywood and radio, television. So I listened growing up. I listened to all of the Fibber McGee and Molly, Great Gildersleeve, Jack Benny, all the comedians. Mel Blanc, who did all the voices for Warner Brothers, Merry Melodies. That's what I grew up on. When I was a kid, I knew that, and I was watching Creature from the Black Lagoon, Abbott and Costello. When people were that's why it wasn't until my 20s in college where people were like, have you ever seen The Shining? And I was like, no, I hadn't seen it. And then I watched it, but it was one of those things where I probably had seen every Best Picture from like 1970 and before. I mean, if it was black and white, it happened one night. I mean, we saw everything.
It's awesome.
And so, and I used to watch Nick at Night with my dad, My Three Sons, I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
So for me, I really appreciated that type of stuff and know where we came from.
Yeah.
And sort of know your roots. And so my father was one way. My mother was in country music for over 40 years.
So, she was?
Yeah, she was. She worked.
So she's not from Chicago.
No, she is. She worked at US 99. Huh. It's the number one country music radio station in the Midwest. And she worked for Clear Channel Radio. Sold airtime. If you've ever seen City Slickers when it's the Parents' Day, and then they ask Billy Crystal what he does. He goes, "I sell air."
Yeah,
that's what my mom did. And she was responsible for helping create the Power of Country Music radio tour, which was a huge thing. So I remember she had photos growing up when we go to her office of like Reba McEntire and Alan Jackson, and it was amazing. It was like incredible. So they were just coming from two different worlds, and it was awesome. It was really cool.
And they met in Chicago.
They met at Southern Illinois University. They're both Salukis, yeah. And my mother grew up and went to Maine West. Powder blue and yellow were the colors, you know. And then my father went to Niles East, and
which doesn't
exist anymore.
Niles West is the only one that's left.
And Niles North, where I went.
And Niles North, yes.
Yeah. But it was all good, and they met in college, and I think my dad was dating my mother's sister's roommate at the time, and so he had a shirt when my mom. He's a very handsome man. He has a huge head of black hair when he was younger and a big mustache. He looked like Omar Sharif from like Dr. Zhivago and all that stuff. He's a very good looking man. And I remember when he had a shirt that was just black that said God on it. And then my mother said, "Are you a religious man?" when she first met him, and he goes, "No, why do you ask?" And she goes, "Your shirt says God." He goes, "It stands for good old Dave." And so his name is David. And so like that was the first time she ever met him. It was great.
It's good.
Yeah, it's great.
Humor was there early on.
Yeah, I mean, and they're still married to this day. I think it's 49 years this year. So there's a real sense of community, and and I think that's why I love Chicago. I can go home and I'm going to hit up Walker Brothers. I'm going to hit up a hot dog. I'm going to hit up Flukies with my dad and Hubs Gyro.
I always tell people about Flukies. Not everybody knows about Flukies.
Best.
You're talking about the one on like Peterson?
No, I'm talking about the one that's... no, I'm sorry. Flukies is amazing. I'm talking about Poochie's. Poochie's is great. It's on Dempster. But for us, like even... And the thing is, I did this job the other day where I was live streaming Wayne's World, and it was Aurora, Illinois, you know?
Of course.
And like when that came out, I really thought about it. We got so blessed. When I was growing up, all the SNL guys, even if they weren't from Chicago, Farley was from Wisconsin, but he performed at Second City.
All these guys represent
Dude,
Chicago
they repped it so hard. Bill Murray grew up right where I grew up, Brian Doyle and
Aykroyd. All those.
Aykroyd's from Toronto, but Jim Belushi.
No, but I'm saying
I know, but you're right. Blues Brothers is from Chicago, and it's like we are so. I really feel fortunate for us that we are represented so well in pop culture. Yeah. And when I think about when Adam Sandler did Hubs Gyro. Did you ever see that on SNL? Yes. He's like, you like the juice? The juice is good. You know more juice. And that's Hubs Gyro is 5 minutes from my parents' house.
Hubs, yep. That Hubs and Dengio's is like a sister.
Wow.
Yes.
And when I was there, they had the bagel at Old Orchard Mall closed down.
What?
I went last holiday season.
That was like a staple.
I know, it was incredible, and I went twice last year.
Wow.
Over Thanksgiving because it was it. That was the last week it was going to be open.
We would go to the bagel or we go to Maggiano's.
For sure. Oh my God.
What do you guys do for Thanksgiving? Do you guys do the?
We have full dinners because
at the house.
No, because my parents' best friends. This guy cooks amazing. This guy Richard, and we go.
It's a home thing.
Oh man, it's huge. And we hit up, and I'll hit up a couple. I'll go to my buddy Robbie Dolan and his family for dessert. I mean, we're going to do it's a whole thing, and we'll eat until we can't. I remember one year I think we had 4 dinners, my buddies and I. We ended up at Omega.
Oh, dude. That was my grandmother lived right across the street almost from Omega. She was in the Niles area. So I went to Omega all the time.
Oh, dude, they hated me there when I was a kid. I apologize if any of them were listening. I made the waitresses' lives there a living hell.
Just teased them? What?
So they used to do this thing where
Omega is that still around?
Oh, sure. It's open 24 hours, man.
Well, I know, but I don't know.
It's a Greek diner, but it's
very dinery.
It's very dinery, but it's not really Greek. I mean, I've never had the gyro there.
I feel like it's only people are eating like chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, but it's a lot of ethnic people. So it's like there's Jews, there's Italians, there's Greek Orthodox, Christians. Like there's a lot of sects there, right? And it's open 24 hours, and they had huge tables. So, a bunch of us like idiots.
The round booths.
The big ones, the big roundies. So what they would do is, I didn't like the fact that I saw, and I've been there a lot, enough to get frequent flyer mile punch card, They would take the bread baskets, and they would just move them from table to table.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
For real. So what we used to do...
Oh, great.
Is poke holes in the bread
just to make sure.
And then we would see them.
Thanks a lot. So basically you're telling me
I'm sorry. I am patient zero. Patient zero. But the grossest thing we did was, so the napkins, they didn't absorb anything. They were starched too much. They were all these maroon napkins.
Yes.
So what we would do is I would spill water everywhere, and then I would be like, hey, excuse me. I'm trying to sop this up, but for some reason this isn't working. And they did it because it was cheap. They starched the napkins so they didn't go through them.
Oh my God.
And so, we used to make their lives living. I mean, nothing like. We weren't shitty to the staff. I mean, obviously, I think we were very good tippers. We were respectful of their time. We didn't waste it.
It's so funny that you actually note. How old were you? Were you a teenager?
Yeah, so I was 16 years old.
Well, I'm just thinking to myself,
15
even at that
years
age,
old.
I never ever thought about looking at how, the round robin of bread. I was just kind of like, I gotta eat.
All we
It's
were
so
doing,
funny.
yeah.
You must have been there a lot.
Yeah, well, also, I just think that was a safe place for my friends and I. Not that place. I mean restaurants where we could go and they wouldn't kick us out.
Yeah.
And so, there was Jack's. Yeah, it was a hangout.
I went to Jack's.
Well, that's closed.
I know.
Yeah.
I filmed a movie in there before they closed.
Whoa,
Yeah.
what movie? Would I've heard of it?
It's an indie. It got digital distribution.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it's called Morty to the Max. If anybody
Awesome.
checks that out, thank you and sorry.
Thank you and God bless.
God bless. Yeah, exactly. No, we knew the guy. We were there every Sunday for years. After my grandma died, my whole dad's side of the family, we went to Jack's. That was our spot. And there was this general manager gentleman, tall guy. I got cool with him. And I remember when I was like, hey, I want to make a movie here. And I used to give you lots of money. So can we just make this happen?
Wow.
And he was just like, come on in.
Yeah, I was shocked when they were closing.
Yeah.
Shocked.
And the sad thing is whenever things close down, you hope that they replace it with something cool. And it's just like a mini mall area. There's nothing.
Well, no, that was the problem. Is that was the last sort of hold on,
right,
in that area. Oh, it was very. I mean, and you know what? The thing is, that's the only thing I would say that really is I don't like the evolution of. It's become a lot of strip malls because the economy obviously did what it did, and so. Only like Dunkin' Donuts, which I love, and Baskin Robbins, yeah, which I love. But though they sort of lose the identity. Like in the neighborhood that I live here in LA, there are no chain restaurants, none. I live in Hollywood, yeah, and I love it so much because I love supporting local businesses.
Yeah, sure.
I don't listen. There's nothing wrong with Starbucks coffee, but I go to a local guy every single morning.
Wow. You're really dedicated in that regard.
I am, and I think that was always important to me because I think that that's sort of what makes an area special is, and it's also like I love that people are trying.
Yeah.
And
they appreciate your business.
Yeah.
Tenfold.
And when we lose that, when we sort of just give everything up to corporations, and by the way, nothing against these, I don't care. I don't shop at Walmart. I just don't, and I there's nothing wrong with it, and I know that plenty of families, it's like a good source for them to get everything they want, but I don't like the way that they treat their workers. They don't pay them very well, and I do like Starbucks because they have insurance for their employees, which I think is really important and cool. But I will always support local. If I can, local grocery store.
That's cool that you do it.
Everything, if I can help it. And I try to not buy, and I'm so guilty of this every now and then, buy made in China. I try to buy as much American as I possibly can.
Very,
well, it's because of my father, because when we were growing up, people had like Toyotas and stuff, and my father would only buy American-made vehicles.
Wow. So
yeah.
What car do you drive?
I drive a Chevy Malibu. You got to draw the line in the sand for you.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that there are certain things that I won't. There's a guy named John Galliano who was a Christian Dior. He was the head of it, and he said some really anti-Semitic things, and now he has his own brand. He's since apologized, but I won't ever buy a piece of clothing from his. Because the thing is, like for me, I research these people. Here's the thing about John. I'm not. Listen, we all fuck up. Everybody says some dumb shit. I'm not saying that I am happy or not happy, about whatever he did. But I'm just saying maybe I'll forgive him one day, but I just don't subscribe to that right now. And that's a very particular thing.
And by the way, I always believe you can always change your mind.
That's what I mean. I'm saying, and by the way, I read his apology. I read it and I was like, you know what?
I'll consider this.
I did. I was like, I wanted to know exactly what I was boycotting and why.
Right.
Because I think people just sort of go like, I don't want to do that for this reason. And I go, well, you should read into it. It's not as much as you think, And so I really did want to, because I think he had a lot of cool designs. And when he was working for Dior, but they dismissed him when he was at Dior. They let him go right away. And it's weird, for me. It's weird just because I put my money. I'm so conscious about where my money goes, and I want to make sure that I am proud of it's like it sort of takes a stand with people that can afford it. Like I would never tell other people like you buy made in China. Why? Everyone
does their thing.
They do their own. Exactly. And I don't begrudge anybody for making that decision.
If you can do it and that's how you feel, then
yeah, exactly. And if people are like, and by the way, I love China. I have worked there many times. They're an incredible people. And
you just have I understand.
I think that it's wrong that American companies take those jobs away and they're not treated well in those conditions. You know, that being said, I am wearing Nikes right now. I'm saying like it's a great, it's convenience, whatever,
but I understand.
If you could look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm just curious about the acting career. How did it actually jump up? I mean, obviously Two Broke Girls it has to be the biggest thing on your resume that people know you from.
Sure.
I want to know how you got to that point, and how did Chicago get you there?
I mean, I think that I sort of got to, like, Chicago's a pretty good place in terms of the rejection didn't feel like a slap in the face. So, like, I would audition for stuff, not at, I went to university, and they have a conservatory program down at U of I.
It's a great theater program.
Amazing. And so after 2 years, they make you re-audition. And which is...
Wow.
Crazy. And so, but I felt like it was always coming from a place of love.
Cranard?
Yeah, the Cranard Center of the Performing Arts. And I really appreciated, because I think I can take harsh criticism, but I don't take it personally, because I always try to look at the lesson of it. And so for me, when I came out here, I think that I never, like, I'd like to say that I'm still the same guy that I was. I have said this many times. I said, if you think I'm an asshole now, I'm like, I was always an asshole. You just didn't know it. And if you like me, you like me. I have the same friends. It kept me always to stay grounded. I'm still very close with my family. I'm still close with my high school drama teacher. I just never... For me, it was never about... It's why I don't drive like a glitzy car. You do what you do for you, and then that reason... can be everything. Like, people come out here because they want to own a Porsche, so they buy a Porsche. But I didn't come out here for that, so I don't drive a Porsche.
You came out here to act.
I came out here because I want to tell stories and I want to be great, and I want to do things that I think will change. That's what I loved about Two Broke Girls so much, was it was one of the first comedies that was really about feminism and about equality and about one who came from, because everyone goes, there's like an idea that everybody else has it better than me. Like when you talk about the physical or the actual fight for something, whereas like on our show, one started rich and then fell to the bottom, right. And then one was born at the bottom.
Right.
So you look at these two people and they're insanely talented and amazing. And it was written by, created by Michael Patrick King and Whitney Cummings, and Michael obviously with Sex and the City. They're really, there was a lot for female empowerment there. And it was really cool to be a part of that in the beginning, of it. I really think that, we were one of, if not we were like the first show, and that meant something. And so when I go do stand up or when I'll travel, can't even tell you how many times, and men all the time, they come up to me, but I remember them, but they don't make as big of an impact. Like, I'll see a woman and she'll go, I watched that show with my daughter. And it was such a big deal because those women didn't put men first. They put their careers first, which, I think women go, well, yeah, that's like normal. And I'm like, it ain't. If you look at TV before 2000, whatever,
right.
That did not exist.
Right. They're at home.
They were always home in the kitchen, or even Roseanne. Yeah, it was like whatever. And so, the fact that our women could be working, and want to have kids and boyfriends and whatever, that was a very cool thing, that you could have it all, that you didn't need to choose. And that I thought was awesome. And it was about small businesses. It was about this diner, which I've always supported diner life. I love it. House of Pies out here, There's a lot of them. Norms, I know it's a chain, but I love Norms.
I just went to Norms for the first time a couple weeks
ago.
What? It was a very weird experience.
Which one did you go to?
It was the one in Beverly Hills area.
The one on La Cienega?
Yes.
It's the best.
I was just there. I just had a weird experience.
What was the weird? Tell me.
Some guy, I don't know if he didn't pay his bill. I don't know what happened.
Probably.
Exactly. It was,
a lot of homeless running amok. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think a server must have said something to him, took a glass and threw it across the room.
Yeah.
In my direction, by the way. shattered everywhere.
Yep.
And then walked out, and they're like, "Call the police." And I was thinking to myself, is this a normal thing that happens on a Wednesday? Or is this
a Friday thing?
Right, exactly.
You know what it is? It's not. It's that they get a lot of seedy people because it's open 24 hours, and also it's sort of in an area where there are businesses, but also
food was fine.
Yeah.
It was diner food.
Yeah, I love it. It's so funny. I took a girl there like 7 years ago. And I remember thinking, like, she was sort of like, why are we going to this diner?
Was this like a test? Was this like, look,
well,
we're going here.
I said I would.
Buckle up if you hadn't.
Exactly. This is real. I love that shit because I love the Route 66. So I sort of fell in love with the idea of Hollywood living in Chicago, but I didn't have to. I could love it from a distance and then go out in my own time.
Sure.
That's the other thing I love about Chicago. It was far enough away where I really could come out. I mean, I left right after school, but it was good that I went to a university, which I love, that was like in the middle of a cornfield. Then it gave me that real American college experience, you know? And then, because people were like, well, why don't you go to Northwestern? Your dad works there. I'm like, no part of me, I don't want to go into a city. I would not want to go to UCLA or USC. I love those schools. I did
a total state school. It's its own world.
Yeah, man.
I enjoyed it, though.
Me too, very much so.
I had to transfer for film school because, unfortunately,
no, they don't have their.
They didn't have anything.
No, they don't.
I did theory, but it wasn't.
Not the same thing.
And I acted in a movie once upon a time. It was called University of Illinois versus a Mummy. It actually ended up in the hands of the late Roger Ebert.
Whoa!
Weird story how that happened. He ripped on it. It was great. He basically lifted it up at a press conference and it was like, this is crap.
Well, they did. You know, there was the Roger Ebert Film Festival down there. Yeah.
So it was that was my like little claim to fame out there. But in all honesty, I wanted to be there for all 4 years. I didn't want to waste time either because I wanted to really learn how to make movies.
And listen, if you're going to play college basketball, and I love the U of I team, go Fighting Illini, I support them. I go to Duke. Like I wouldn't. I'm saying I got lucky.
I was there for the good year though.
No, I know when they went to the final.
Yes,
I know.
And I got to see all those guys on campus.
Awesome. Cool. It's so like, and that's the thing. It's you're like they're big fish in small ponds,
right?
Which is great. And then, by the way, obviously, some of them go on to be big fish in oceans. You know.
You want to find out what you about Alan Ruck?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you
Cameron,
work with him?
I never worked with him. Cameron, by the way, from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's on Succession right now.
He went to U of I.
Yeah, a lot of you know who else did? Nick Offerman.
I didn't know that.
So did Ang Lee, director of...
Ang Lee I knew. So real quickly, who have you worked with?
Hal Linden. He was Barney Miller on the old sitcom Barney Miller. Was the best.
That was your big dream?
He was... I watched Barney Miller growing up, and when I found out that he was going to be on the show, he was one of the best. I couldn't believe how good he was as an actor. Andy Dick. I've
met Andy.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
I actually want to get him on here because he's from Chicago.
Yeah, no, I know. He did a couple episodes on the show, and he was phenomenally funny, and we became buddies. And then I would say...
What episodes have you done?
We did 138. Kevin Meaney, God rest his soul, was this great comic from the 80s and 90s. He passed away a couple years ago where he used to have a catchphrase. He'd play his mother talking about him, and he'd be like, that's not right, doing the thing with the thing, that's not right. So he was on the show, and we actually became very close, and we would text, and he was just the sweetest man. He called me one day, I was out shopping, and he goes, didn't you say you wanted to play crackers in Indianapolis? And I was like, yeah. I said, but my agent at the time was like, we can't get you in there. He goes, I'm with the owner right now. Here's the phone. And then she was just like, we would love to have you. I don't even know. Like, that's the kind of guy Kevin Meaney was.
That stuff drives me crazy, though, where it's like there's an access point. Somebody broke it down, but really, you could have just gotten a hold of that one person.
You know what?
Of course.
But the fact that, like, it came through Kevin Meaney,
it means a lot.
Yeah, and I remember where I was. He was texting me. And I was just like, holy shit, dude. Cool. And I grew up watching him on the late night on the USA, like the comedies when I was super young. I remember him very well. And so, you know, there was a lot of people like that Valerie Harper.
Oh, yeah, of course.
She was on Legend, Valerie Harper. I mean, that we got lucky. We had on, when Michael would ask, hey, I wrote a part for you, they would show up from any walk, like, you know, whoever. We had just... God, it was just
Seems like you guys had fun.
Oh man, we had the best time. I mean, we really did. It was such a fun environment, and everybody was. I mean, Garrett Morris. Dude, I mean, he was one of my favorite people I ever worked with.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Jennifer Coolidge, who played my wife, one of the funniest people alive.
I love.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got lucky. And just because people really wanted to do the show, all these Groundlings people that I'd grown up watching out here, like Brian Palermo and Jordan Black and Stephanie Courtney, and these people that I love and I perform with at the Groundlings as a guest, when I first moved out here when I was 23, I'd go watch these dudes and these women like when I had no money, and I would go to the Wednesday night show and just be like, whoa, these are awesome. And then they were all on the show, and I was like, hey, I came to the show. It was just awesome. It was a very cool like thing in life, just like it was, and people loved being there. The show was a fucking hit, so it was like, oh, is this gonna air?
It's all the time on the plane.
I'm like, it's gonna air, and the numbers are gonna be crazy. So people were just like happy. I remember Andy Dick was just like, oh, he goes, this is crazy, how good this show is. And I go, but you run news radio, it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And he goes, what? News radio? We never got in any of the ratings. He was like, we were always,
how's he doing, by the way?
I mean, I perform with him every now and then. You know what? And he knows this. He's on and off. If he's drinking, but I know that he has demons, as we all do, and vices, and it's really, when you're out here enough, you sort of know that everybody's good and everybody's bad.
Yeah.
And I've only had lovely experiences with him, and I've hung out with him a number of times. I've heard from other people. I can attest to anything else that it's like, depends on. I've heard you met him.
When I've talked to him, he was fine.
He was so nice.
Literally, what I said, he guest hosted the same show that you were on at one point, and he goes, "Oh, so this is real?" I was like, "Yes." He thought he was just going to walk in and sit down. I was like, no, man, we're doing this.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He's an odd duck.
But, hey, he's cool. He's funny.
Very, very funny. Very funny. He had.
Do you guys talk about the Chicago, your background?
I mean, when I first met him, we did, but But
now you're just friends.
Now we're just friends. That's the thing, is like, we'll go. I'll say to somebody, I'm going back to Chicago. They go, haven't? I go, you Lumel? Not like very like that's it.
Stuff,
it's very quick, but it's or if I'm like, I'm in Chicago, I saw your Twitter or whatever. Like, do you want to meet up? It's like, yeah, come hang. Or like, come meet me, and that happens a lot too. For like, oh, I'm here. Let me know. Hit me up. And it's very. It's easy. That's the one thing I love about Chicago. I'm saying, like, the people are easy.
Getting around's easy.
I was going to say grid. The city, the grid. One of my first stand-up jokes was about the grid, and the food is easy. The drinking is easy. It's comfortable. It's a very comforting place.
It's nice to go back to.
It's wonderful, and you can take credit for so few things in life, and that is something that I proudly inaccurately take credit for all the time, is that I'm from Chicago.
A couple quick questions. One, do you ever get noticed in the city?
Yeah, I mean, especially if I have a beard. I mean, all the time. If I have a beard, if I have long, my hair's pretty short right now, but if I have a beard or long hair, yeah.
In the city, mostly in Chicago, more than anywhere else?
You can just tell that now people are just like, I mean, no, sort of all over. I mean, I get noticed if I have like long hair and a beard.
Gotcha. Do you like it or you don't like that?
I don't mind it. I mean, I've only not taken 3 photos in my life, and I was late for a movie twice, and I was late for a flight the other time. I was in an airport, City Walk, and the Grove. But I always stop and take photos, and I'll always sign whatever. I mean, I appreciate that people give a shit about what I do, because it allows me to keep doing it, I mean, I do it for myself, but especially with comedy, like, I enjoy making people laugh, and
it's another source of entertainment and a way for them to see you.
Yeah, for sure. And I always love, and I stay when I do stand up, I stay after and talk to everybody, and
that's cool.
Yeah, man, I'm always so grateful that people give a shit.
Cool. I want to know, you have an interesting accent, because you were supposed to be Ukrainian in the show.
Oh, and Too Broke, yeah.
Have you ever talked to any Ukrainians and they go, you nailed it? Or
yeah, they did. They came to the show. We had people sometimes that would fly in, and it seemed to fly. They all thought I sounded pretty damn close.
That's awesome. So you do a lot of impressions, and I wanted you to be able to actually do the voices of some of our favorite Chicago people.
Let me see if I can do it.
Let's see if you could do it. Can you do a Harry Carey?
He was like going back to the back wall, and then this Hispanic guy lost the ball for the Cubs, and he was like, how does a Mexican lose the ball in the sun?
He said that,
and they're like, what?
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wait, what year was that?
Real, I don't know.
How does a Mexican?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Obama. I know you've done Obama.
Yeah, I can do Obama. I would say he sounds like dial-up internet. You got mail. Hello, America.
Do you remember when he was inaugurated? Where were you for that?
I was down in Century City at the headquarters.
There you
Obama's
go.
at the.
You were at the headquarters
here in Century City. Yeah.
Wow.
And I will never forget. I saw this really old black woman who just the look on her face. I'll never forget it. That the fact. I mean, she was probably in her 80s, 90s, maybe, and she was just like she couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah,
that's awesome.
It was awesome. I will never forget the old woman. Yeah, it was very cool.
Can you do Ditka?
I actually worked with Ditka. Sorry, I worked with Dick Butkus.
Oh, he's out here. Do you know that?
I did a commercial with him like 12 years ago. Wow. With him and Barry Sanders and Peyton Manning.
Oh,
couldn't remember.
That must have been awesome.
It was great. I didn't really. I talked to Barry Sanders. You actually couldn't believe how short he was. I mean, it was one of those things where he looked like a Barry Sanders impersonator on Hollywood and Highland because he was so little. And you go, man, this guy is that good. That's how great he was.
I love watching highlights of this.
Oh, my.
For any young people who've never seen highlights of Barry Sanders.
First game he ever did, they tried to tell the refs to stop the game because the defense said that he had put grease on his jersey because they couldn't catch him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a true story?
Yeah.
Wow.
He
was a beast. I mean, I remember when he played the Bears. It was
my God. He just
looked like horrible.
He was unbelievable.
Any other thoughts of kind of what you would tell people who are, I always think people who would watch or listen to this is probably mostly Chicago.
For sure. I love them. I don't even know them and I love them.
Yeah. How do you do it? How do you actually make it?
I think you need. So I'll tell you this though. This is not me being negative, and I think you've known me long enough. I might put my money where my mouth is. I truly believe that if you can do something else, you should do something else. Only because
it's so funny.
I say that as somebody. I've been out here 16 years. I've worked every year. I pay all my bills doing this. I love what I do. I love the people, but it's like there is a thing about when you are a pro athlete and you have to play in that game, the amount of times as a professional actor, unless you're, Meryl Streep or Christian Bale or whoever, you spend most of the time practicing and working out. And if you don't love the process, which by the way, most people don't. And of course, why? Like, you love the acting of it, but the process of something that it's like guys who have to love the weight room in football, and there's some dudes that don't like to lift weights, and you go, yeah, but the guy that's about to run into you.
You better be prepared.
Right. He likes lifting weights. And so I think of it as the way that you do it is you have to keep perspective to know what you want and go for that with the idea that as you get older or you get married, you have kids, things will change. They're okay with that. And it's not about being successful for anyone else but you and your family. Because I think that so much people, they take on the weight of the world that isn't necessary. Mm-hmm. That you got to let go of of the idea that like, God, if I'm not successful, I'm not good enough or I'm not worth anything, because this is a job like anything else. Just because someone can recognize me on the street, it doesn't make, I think of like doctors and teachers and by the way, not people who start, there's a famous thing about accountants. When you go into school the freshman year, they go, look to your right, look to your left. Two of you won't be here, you know what I mean? Or one of you won't be, because it drops out by a third or a half after the first semester. And so you got to understand that if you want it, and that's how you stick into it because you want it.
You felt that way since you were a kid.
Yeah, because I'm so, and I don't say this with humor, I'm not good at anything else. Like the things that I am good at, they happen to be good building blocks for this career. Like I have a great memory. I can memorize things very quickly. I can do voices. I can do accents. I look very different depending on what my facial hair looks like. So even from a visual perspective, I think that it takes a sort of intensity to do, at least the people that I really admire and sort of look at. It takes a focus that you have to have. So you sort of have to have like all this Robin Williams, which I love, but Robin Williams, when he needed to be, was like right down the barrel. He was and that is so hard. You see people do that and they're exhausted.
Yeah.
Whereas he was able to somehow keep energy in the tanks. Listen, his death had nothing to do with that. But I'm saying, Jim Carrey, you have to, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes, and the people only see the tip of the iceberg of people that have made it.
Right.
But they don't see everything. You will have to give up a lot of stuff. So here's the thing. It's your life. Do what you think will be the most worthwhile and bring you the most happiness or make the biggest difference. But just know that you're going to have to, you start at the base of the mountain, and the base is made of glass.
Yeah.
So if you can get up on that glass, it's very slippery and it's very brittle.
It's true. Tell everybody where to find you. What do you got going on?
At Jonathan Kite, JonathanKite is my Twitter. I'm never on it. But it's my Instagram. Yeah, and then
you have a great Instagram.
Oh, thanks. I don't go on it. I got to get back. I take breaks unintentionally, and then I'm like, shit, I got to. But at Kites of the Round Table is my podcast with my cousin Jeff Kite, and that's Kites of the Round Table, pretty standard, one word. And we do about an episode a week, and then I'm working on a bunch of new stuff that. Oddly enough, I've signed NDAs. I can't really say anything, but I'm excited and I'm working and I'm enjoying my life.
Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, man.
Awesome job.
Thank you so much, bro. Thanks for having me.
For sure.